The JLR interview series.
Okay, so it's Thursday, 22nd November, just after 7 p.m. And today I've got a phone interview, or shall I say this evening, with a chap. His name's Paul Stewart, and he's from the band Blueboy. So first of all, how are you this evening?
Very well. Excellent.
Now, Blueboy was, for lack of a better description, an indie band that was around in the 1990s, and they did some amazing music, and I've been playing their stuff on Jazzland the radio for the last 3 to 4 years, and I've really enjoyed doing that. And I would say I first discovered your music on John Peel's show back in the 90s, Meet Johnny Rave.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know, long time ago.
yeah, seems that way now.
It does, yeah. So the reason I got Paul on today, because one of the albums they brought out, I think it was your last record, so it was called The Bank of England, which came out in 1998, and you've recently done a reissue on vinyl, which is always great to hear.
Yeah.
And I think that's licensed through Colourful Storm.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so really, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, what made you guys decide to reissue that album on vinyl? What was the sort of thinking behind that?
Well, just a little bit of background. The first 2 albums we did were on Sarah, so that was If Wishes Were Horses and then Unisex. And then Matt from the label, he started up Shinkansen Records, and we did, because Sarah kind of ended on Sarah 100, Matt started his own label, Shinkansen, and so he asked us to do, because we had a lot of material ready, because we'd been still writing and playing all through that time, and so it just made sense to do another album. So he asked if we'd do another LP, so we said yeah, and so that was released on Shinkansen Records, but that was on CD only.
Yeah.
The other 2 were vinyl and CD, and so we got approached by Colourful Storm. Must have been about a couple of years ago now in total, I think, just about the idea of, I guess it's a reissue, but it's the first one that's been available on vinyl, so it's a reissue of the album, but on round plastic, and we just thought that was a great idea, so, and he wanted to do it as authentically as possible, and the results are really lovely, and so now you've got the 3 LPs on vinyl, albeit a big gap in between originally coming out and being reissued by Colourful Storm. So yeah, we're really pleased, and it's really weird to look at it and to think that this is what it would have looked like if it was released on vinyl originally.
Yeah.
But anyway, here we are. So it's available now. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the sort of the images on the cover.
Yeah,
I suppose
obviously with digital techniques now that weren't available then, you know, it's been able to recreate a really lovely thing, and we're really pleased with the results. It just looks really couldn't be better, really.
Yeah, and what about the sort of the sound quality of the vinyl itself? I mean, does that really reflect what you guys are trying to achieve?
Very much so, because Matt had sort of all the digital files, so it was able to have been pressed almost, you know, from new. So it's not like having to dig around for old tapes and clean them up and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's done a lot these days, you know, some very, very old recordings. But obviously we had the digital files, and so that was able to be transferred to vinyl, and just sounds really, really crisp and really, really fresh today.
Well, I look forward to hearing that, because I've been playing tracks from the CD quite a lot, all the tracks really, Miss UK, Jennifer, yeah, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to sound really amazing on vinyl.
Yeah.
And you know, sort of just thinking about sort of the late 1990s, because that was originally released in 1998.
Yeah.
And it's funny, isn't it, looking back, how in the early 90s vinyl was still quite sort of out there and prominent, but by the late 1990s it was virtually unheard of to
very much
even see any vinyl shops.
Just going sort of digital then as well. I mean, we hadn't. I don't think we had anything on iTunes or anything like that at that time. And since then, that's where a lot of our stuff has been sort of transferred over with like a lot of bands. But yeah, it started off. Our first single was vinyl only, and then we went through onto CD, and then gradually CD only, and then sort of digital, and now this has gone right backwards again and bringing out the vinyl again, so it's gone full circle. So we've sort of been, makes it sound as though we're veterans, but we went sort of pre-digital age almost before that with a band we were in called Feverfew, doing sort of demo tapes on cassette, and in the studio with the reel-to-reel recorder, and had to do overdubs and pressing stop and rewind and then record and then stop and rewind and that kind of thing, to now where you've got home recording studios and it's digitized and just amazing. So I guess in that respect, in terms of the life cycle of the technology, we've sort of been through the whole lot really, and done everything, and from sort of cassette to vinyl to CD to digital and back to vinyl again.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that having that kind of experience helps? Like, to give you a different perspective on things?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, when we were going into the studio in the early days, we had to be pretty well rehearsed and planned and have a pretty good idea how things were going to sound, because first of all, it was expensive, but the techniques weren't there then. You had to pretty much know exactly what you were going to do. You could take some risks, I guess, but so we played a lot, a huge amount of rehearsal as a band, so that when we went to the studio, it was just second nature. We played with our eyes closed, and I think we recorded something like about 40 songs. Wow. 40 songs. Before we reformed as Blueboy, and then got picked up by Sarah, and then on from that, doing the LPs in the studio, it's still taped and still expensive, but we'd be able to try out different things and classical instruments and that kind of thing, and piano, even though we were sort of an indie band, I guess. We wanted to make it a bit more lush, a bit more instrumental.
Yeah.
And now, of course, with things that are digital, you can just go, let's see if we can put a backwards reverb on that snare drum, and you just click a button and see what it sounds like, and you think, yeah, okay, or no, I'll try something else. Very quick, very instant.
Yeah.
So the sort of the songwriting process, if you like, or the craft, is altered and shifted a little bit into being able to do things a bit more spontaneously and being a bit more risk-taking in the studio, whereas in the early days you couldn't really afford to. I mean, you could, but if it didn't pay off, you've got an expensive bill because you have to start again.
Yeah, no, I quite understand that.
Talk about the future, compact clothes in the snow, pink sky, blue trail, BC sail, using giant uprighting in a car very fast, watching Kate he's sleeping, Caesar's voice echoes past. Pink sky, blue trail, VC tinsel, way out beyond the clouds pile, golden sun. Shine out, shine on your daydreams, tiny one. Fountain pens and pages, ice cream white, nothing flows. Frames of gold just perish. Is this art? No one knows. Pink sky, blue trail, VC tinsel, drunk and sentimental, but it's time to move on. Look beyond the longing and my words that were wrong. Pink sky, blue trail, VC tinsel, way out beyond the clouds of golden sun. Shine out, shine on your daydreams, tiny one. Shine out, shine on your daydreams, tiny one. Way out beyond the clouds pile, golden sun. Shine out, shine on your daydreams, tiny
So what I wanted to do is just touch on the music itself. So like, I know you guys kind of formed in 1989, wasn't it? You and was it Keith Girdler?
Yeah.
Yeah, who sadly passed away some years ago. Yeah, and so you got together and you sort of stuck around for about 10 years. That's right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah.
And musically sort of speaking, the sound that you guys generated, I think, really kind of reflects the sound of that time of the 90s. That, to me, sort of being part of it and being able to look back as well, I thought it was a time where there was a lot more room for creativity musically speaking. I mean, if I just sort of mention, for instance, even though you did like a lot of indie rock and stuff, I've been able to play tracks like Boys Don't Matter, where it's like just acoustic guitars and vocals, and lots of different things. So I mean, how do you look back on that period?
Musically, you mean?
Yeah.
What, and in context with everything else that's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, in context, because do you look at sort of that period and say there was a lot of creativity allowed more than maybe sort of today?
Yeah, although our attitude was always very. I mean, obviously you're always influenced by the things you hear, and you can listen to the music and hear influences of your record collection and pretty much everything you do. I mean, everything you say has been influenced somehow along the way, and that's the same when you pick up an instrument, you know. And so we were kind of influenced by what was going on at the time, although we didn't say, "Oh, great, let's make a Britpop record." It just seemed to be that, you know, we were listening to that kind of thing, and that would come out in some of the writing. But we essentially were guitar and voice, because Keith and I were friends right back to the sort of early 1980s, really. Mm-hmm. And I would go around his house on a Sunday with my guitar, and we would just go through ideas and record things, and I'd send him a tape in the post in a week. And so when we met up for the weekend, he'd been listening to the tape and put ideas and melodies and words to things, and then we'd gradually introduce a keyboard and someone else on a bass and this kind of thing. So because that's how our sort of creativity had been conditioned, and that was the songwriting process for us, that didn't really alter. So something like Boys Don't Matter is still, you know, a guitar and a voice in a bedroom just knocking out a song that didn't really need any drums or anything else added to it. Mm-hmm. So I guess they sound sort of stripped down, but that's kind of how we would write songs anyway. In fact, we probably wrote pretty much everything like that before bringing it to the band and saying, right, have a go at putting something to this or this, that and the other. So we were sort of a little bit outside the sort of scene, I guess, as well, if you can use such a word. We were quite pleased that we were quite unfashionable. And well, I think we fitted with their records as well, because they were kind of like, you know, doing things that we really liked that no other label was doing. It wasn't aggressive and or macho like a whole load of the other. You got to think of the musical climate then, and you had, you know, all the festivals, all the mega bands. Yeah. And there we were, sort of really fey, sort of pop, acoustic pop songs that we just came up with, you know, that's the thing we kind of do, sort of misfits really. so I think we fitted well with the Sarah label, and it was just lovely people to get on with, and the way it all happened was just, you know, musically we were left very much just to do what we were going to naturally do. We weren't ever told to do anything in such a way. Sort of get a letter in the post from Matt Claire saying, "Do you fancy doing another single soon?" You know, that kind of, it was that kind of attitude, that sort of creative freedom, really. Yeah. So we would just do the things we wanted to do, and so we carried on writing songs and playing and doing it our own way.
Well, yeah, that's a really interesting answer, because it kind of sort of reflects how high I view the music as well. I mean, you had the cellist as well in the band, and she was Gemma, is that correct? And Gemma, she contributed the vocals as well. Yep. So, you know, there seemed to be like a freedom, musical freedom there. And I remember last year I interviewed Juliana Hatfield. Oh yeah. And you know, so she was saying sort of similar thing, where it just seemed to me like during that period there was like a window where sort of artists like yourself or Stereolab or whoever were also discovered via John Peel during that period, seemed to have like a freedom and build up an audience organically I should say, as opposed to it being really contrived. I think that's what's special about that scene in the 1990s during that period. It was kind of unique. Yeah, we were listening to things like Shelley and Orson and bands like that just used, you know, orchestral instruments. And meeting Gemma was a godsend, because we put out an ad for a backing vocalist to join the band, because it works well with the sort of the boy-girl vocals. It's always worked well
away, so we put this ad out, and Gemma, in fact, was the only person to answer the ad. But we chatted with her, and at the end of it, we all got on famously and everything, but at the end of it she said, "Oh, and I play cello and piano." So I went, "Great. So when do you want to start?" So Unisex really was the sort of fruition of just a bunch of like-minded people working together and just playing their instruments and try not to be too influenced by outside forces, but just concentrate on the sorts of music that we really, really liked and cherished and thought was really beautiful, and we hope that sort of came out with the album. It's very light, and things like The Joy of Living, it's very sort of uplifting pop song, lovely cello line and some piano and things like that going on.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great tune.
yeah, I think it's a good sort of snapshot of that kind of era and that sort of time, but it was quite innocent as well. Quite innocent.
Yeah, and also you did, although a slight departure, singles like Dirty Mags.
Yeah.
Which the Brits always cracked you off a little bit.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then so the Bank of England was your final record. So what happened sort of after that?
Well, Dirty Mags obviously refers to the press. It doesn't refer to anything that you might find on the top shelf in the newsagent. But yeah, we were getting a bit more. I think we were playing more and more gigs live, and we love playing live. And so with that, you can't quite do the same things as you can in the studio when you're playing live. All your instruments are loud and turned up, and there's the momentum there of playing as a band. And so songs like Dirty Mags sort of came out, and it's great fun to play. And Imipramine as well was the last off Unisex. Those were very, very live songs, and so we got those down. We wanted to capture the live element of those songs in the recordings.
Yeah.
But by the time that came out, Sarah Records had ceased, and it was ended with a big party in Bristol where a lot of the bands played. And we felt as though we felt a little bit like we'd lost our moorings a little bit, because that was our first proper record label, and they sort of steered us through the whole process, and we relied on them a hell of a lot, and they were very good to us. And so we were left with a bunch of songs and maybe a third album and nowhere to go. So Matt starting the label, that was the natural choice for that. And then that came out, and then I think it got a couple of reviews, but by then a lot of us had moved away, and family commitments and work commitments had meant that it wasn't as easy to meet up and get together. So as a band, we kind of just dissolved a little bit. Although the album came out, there wasn't really a tour to promote that. We didn't do. I think we only did a couple of gigs. And then after that, we just decided that we'd done 3 albums as Blueboy. What on earth would the 4th album sound like, And so maybe it was time to sort of rethink and sort of have a look at, step back and have a look at what we're doing, what we were writing. Prior to that, we were recording a couple of singles for Siesta, which was a label in Madrid. We had a few songs which we didn't think would fit with Blueboy and that sort of journey, so it was a great outlet for us to experiment a little bit more with a sort of lounge, jazzy pop type of feel, bossa nova, that kind of thing. So we did a few EPs with Siesta, and so it made sense to pick the phone up to them and have a chat with them about maybe doing something a bit more serious. And they said, yeah, they'd be delighted. So we were lucky to go from, straight onto the next sort of project, really. And so that was when Beaumont was born, and that was a kind of fantasy jazz pop kind of outfit. Still us writing music and writing the songs, but that was very studio based. So I think we did 1 gig, I think.
Yeah.
But it was never going to be a big live sort of thing. We just enjoyed the songwriting process and getting involved with all the sleeve artwork and the titles and everything else, and getting lots of musicians in. We've got a trumpeter, pianist, this kind of thing, 2 backing vocalists. It was
Wow.
yeah, just a really good way of almost an anecdote, really, of the sort of Britpop thing, and just us being misfits again in this kind of fantasy jazz world.
Is that music? Is it out there? Like if I was
Yeah,
to
there's
check it out?
3 LPs, 3 Beaumont LPs.
Okay, I'll look out for that.
Yeah, I think they're. I think you can download them all. They're on. CDs. There was no. I think there was a 10-inch. There was a 10-inch EP we did as well.
Yeah.
Called Discotheque à la carte.
Okay. Have you? I don't know if you heard of a group called Landscape.
A band.
Yeah.
Landscape.
They were around in the 70s and then early 80s.
Did they do Einstein a Go-Go?
Yeah.
And I do know of such a song, yeah.
Yeah, they did, but they also did some interesting jazzy stuff as well.
They did what, sorry?
Some interesting jazzy kind of stuff as well.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, in the late 70s, instrumental.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, when you're in a band and you're sort of a little bit established, it can be a bit limiting, because if you like playing other styles and like doing other things, if you do that under the same name, people get confused with it. You think you're trying to be a bit, a bit too sort of ambitious or controversial or something. So it sort of makes sense to change your identity a little bit and reinvent yourself. And so a whole bunch of people were getting into the sort of Beaumont stuff we were doing, and then they weren't really tying the two things up together at all, which didn't worry us in the slightest. But it is an interesting point that if you like playing or you write sort of different styles, and I've always been interested in, jazz guitar. I mean, the first record I ever heard was Take 5 by Dave Brubeck, and got into Django Reinhardt, when I was a boy. And so, and then, sort of into punk and new wave and the rest of it. So all of this is going on in the background, so that when you're being creative, some of these things are going to try and make their way out somehow, and so you've got to follow that. You've got to sort of follow that thread, and so if it takes you down another avenue, you've got to sort of go with it, really, if that's the way something's going. And so if you're in a sort of established band, or a particular style, and that's another reason why, 3 LPs, we've kind of, with Blueboy, we felt we'd done as much as we could do, and we didn't want to compromise by sort of trying just to sort of wring out another album's worth of stuff that would fit a sort of a Blueboy record. We didn't really know what that could be, so luckily we had all this kind of other avenue that we followed, and so yeah, I can completely understand that.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating to hear, actually. I think sort of the music scene sort of from around 60s, late 60s, 70s, 80s, right through the 90s, there was always the possibility for like that sort of creativity, putting different elements into. Even if you look at like the Police, if I listen to the Police now and I play the stuff a lot still, sometimes I hear jazz elements in there. Which people might not even realise, but it's quite pronounced. So
I mean, I guess the most typical example would be the Beatles when they went kind of all Eastern, and Ravi Shankar was playing his guitar, and they were sort of going down that avenue. They must have lost a few fans along the way who were just into their sort of teeny bop stuff. But you can't do that forever, you don't wear the same kinds of clothes year in, year out. You change, and so
evolve.
Yeah, totally. And so they went with that, and then they went off and did their own thing and the rest of it. So when you've got to look at music in context, and you've got to look at what's happening and how you're creating things at that time. It's wrong to sort of compare it. So that's completely different to that. You can't do that. It's just the way it goes, really.
That's an interesting answer, and it just makes me think what the reason I do what I do on this internet station, and just to give people like a different look and say, well, there's all this great music. It doesn't have to sound this particular way. If it sounds good, then that's the main thing, and you can hear all the influences as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to finish up, Ray, so what are you doing now musically?
Musically now, well, actually, I'm writing and composing, excuse me, still, but instrumental pieces, and so I haven't got anything released or anything like that, but I've got a body of work, a sort of repertoire of, I guess you could call it sort of film music, soundtrack kind of music that I'm working on, plus some kind of theme tunes, that kind of thing. So it's really just, no one's ever going to hear it. It's just, I've got a home studio, a nice setup, and got my guitars and effects and all these kind of fancy gadgets, strings and drum machines and that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm still being influenced and listening to things and creating things. So I guess when it stops at the moment. There's still some work coming out.
Okay, that's good. And just one last question. I mean, as Blueboy, do you ever do like reunion tours, or do you ever get together as a one-off?
We've, I mean, a few of us are still in touch, but for example, Lloyd is in Australia. Mark, bass player, he moved back up north. Gemma's extremely busy. She's got a very successful career, and Harvey, I'm sort of I bump into now and again. But as a band, it's, we don't get together as a band as such. I've met a jazz singer called Noel Vaughan, and we've done a couple of sort of low-key acoustic gigs of Blueboy material. We did one this year, and we did one last year at Lexington.
Okay.
We did one this year with the people at Everything Indio 40. And so we were asked to play, so we did that. But it's the practicalities of getting a band together, a full band, is just makes my head spin.
Well, okay. Well, at least we got all the music that's already documented, so that's the main thing, isn't it? And now that we got something to check out on vinyl, that's even better. So great. Well, if you do that again, I'll look out for it.
Thanks very much.
That happened next year. Maybe come and check it out.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Okay, so it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed this interview with Jazzland Radio.
Likewise. Thanks for inviting me on.
That's no problem at all. And I look forward to spinning this on the vinyl vaults.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks.
Johnny Ray
The JLR interview series.